All right, call this meeting to order for the council meeting for Tuesday, April 21st, regular voting meeting. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Lemak,
Here.
Mr. McKenna,
Here.
Mrs. Ling,
Present.
Mr. Olszewski,
Here.
Mr. Corns,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mayor Dice.
All right, that moves us to announcements of unlisted amendments.
Yes, in discussion with council, I believe there was a decision to table item 13A this evening. That was an agenda item to fill the vacancy on council. Council does have 45 days from the start of the vacancy with which to fill the position. That would allow council to fill the position at the upcoming May 6th meeting. The 45-day window expires on May 14th. So council would have one more meeting to make that decision. Interviews were conducted today, and I think council has expressed a desire to kind of weigh out their thoughts and come back at a subsequent meeting. So at the direction of council, I believe the only modification would be to table item 13A.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, that moves us on to consent calendar items. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar items?
Motion to approve calendar items.
Second.
Thank you, Matt and Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. That moves us on to comments by the mayor. Dane is unfortunately not able to be here tonight, so Mike, are you going to kind of couple yours with his?
I can do that, yes.
All right.
We'll put up the slides here. There are only, I believe, 2 items for this evening. We're currently in the Murraysville Cleanup Week, which is occurring for the remainder of the week. For the weekday hours, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Pleasant Valley Landfill. Murraysville residents may take items to the landfill. And also Saturday, April 25th from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So permit passes are available here at the reception desk at the municipal building. If there are any questions, please contact the municipality. And then the only other item for this meeting is the curbside leaf collection program. The last pickup will be this Saturday, April 25th. You have to schedule your leaf pickup. There's a limit of 20 bags. So please sign up before Thursday. So you have 2 days left to sign up for this Saturday's pickup. There is a form on the website as well. So please go to the municipal website for more information or contact the municipal offices. Moving on to the Chief Administrator's report, just a few items to mention to council for this evening. First, the police department have been working, moving forward on the bicycle patrol program that we're working to implement. They've been working on sizing and fitting for uniforms for the bike patrol. They are scheduling training for bike patrol as well and working to acquire the bikes. As you may recall, we got a roughly $7,000 to $8,000 grant to help supplement the implementation of that program. Secondly, the Chambers Park paving will be starting either tomorrow or Thursday of this week. It is weather dependent, so as long as the weather cooperates, they will be doing the paving at Chambers Park. The line painting that will occur thereafter will take place roughly a month or so away. They can't come in and paint the lines right away because the pavement or the asphalt has to cure first for the paint to adhere properly. So Public Works will come back out in line and stripe the paved area, but it will be at least about a month. And as you know, that brings us right into the middle of spring. So depending on schedules and things like that, they will work to get that done as soon as possible. And then lastly, I do have just a brief update regarding some efforts from the Westmoreland Conservancy and Shelley Tishy's group. They did work this past weekend for Earth Day at the Skeena and Kelman Reserves. I'm trying to multitask here and pull up a few pictures that she sent over, and I do have just a brief rundown to give an update to council. But they did do some work at the reserve. If I'm able to bring this up, bear with me. I guess they, if you can see here, if this gets pulled up, they started at 9 a.m. From the parking lot on the Kelman Reserve. They had a team of 7 individuals using chainsaws, loppers, clippers, and handsaws. And they went out and essentially cleared some of the trails to make them open and passable. There was one area near the Evergreen lot to the Maury Haynes Trail that they just weren't able to make passable. I guess it's just too difficult in that area, but they cut back a bunch of vegetation along the Hollow Oak Trail. They indicated there's much more to do, but they did make a lot of headway. So you can see the area there that they were able to kind of clear out. I'm not sure if these other pictures will be as descriptive, but that is an area that they work to improve. And again, there are just some images of those folks helping and volunteering their time last Saturday. So those are the trail areas that they kind of cleared out. And I guess that's it. There were 2 to 3 small bridges that they indicated needed to be replaced and some other trail maintenance. So just a small update there that they were willing to share with us. So I figured I would pass that along to council as we have had discussions with that group about some of the management and maintenance responsibilities at those 2 reserve areas. So that is all for this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, that moves us on to community input. Thank you. All right, first we have Dave Bozzetti. Dave, if you don't mind, if you just state your name and your address for the
My
record.
name is David Bossetti, 5152 Cherry Drive, Export, PA, which is in Zone R1. Okay, back in June of 25, the middle of June, I was cited from the municipality for keeping honeybees. It's against the rule, the article, Code Chapter 220, Article 6, Section 2265, keeping livestock or farm animals or bees. I need 10 acres or more to house bees. I don't understand where we're at. I think we all know the importance of honeybees and how they play a role in the environment. I have mentored a lot of youth, which is important to keep the bees going because they are in dire need. We don't need commercial beekeepers, we need backyard beekeepers. Okay, I applaud council for last year in September when you guys permitted to have bees in R2 and R3, which is densely populated. And I would just like to, see this, something happen. I mean, the rule is there, but all it is someone has a personal issue with you, like in my case, that's why I was turned in. Murraysville's not going around, the code enforcement officer's not targeting beekeepers, okay? But that rule is there. If someone has an issue with you, boom. And that's what happened in my case. And I would be more than interesting or happy to show any one of you that would be interested in some bees to come down. I had the luxury of relocating my bees to my farm in Indiana County, but I can't teach people here in Murraysville like I used to. And that, if someone's interested, I'd be more than happy to show you, and that's all. I just hope that we could head in the right direction with this.
Michael,
Yes.
are we not looking at that right now in changing that and removing the honeybees from agriculture?
We are. So that is an item that is in front of the Planning Commission right now. Because the issue that you're contending with is in the zoning ordinance, it requires a little bit more of a process to make a change to that language. So as part of that process, the ordinance or any change to the zoning ordinance would have to be reviewed by the Planning Commission first and then ultimately come to council. Right now, there is a draft ordinance, a very rough version that the Planning Commission did discuss at the meeting last week. I'm looking here to make sure that my notes are correct. I don't want to misstate anything, but they were making changes to, I believe, is to eliminate animal husbandry and agriculture from the R2 district and eliminate the future conditional use hearings for beekeeping. As you recall, there was another resident that was able to get approval. It just so happened that the way the zoning is written, that individual lived in a district where they could use that mechanism. So all that to say, it is an item that is being discussed before the Planning Commission. Ultimately, they will provide feedback, and then that draft ordinance will come to this council for review, consideration, modifications, and then potentially adoption. So it is something that is in the works, and hopefully you'll be seeing some changes to that soon.
I thank you, okay?
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
We love our honey from those bees.
That's right.
Said we love the honey from those bees. They help with allergies, you know, local honey. It's good.
Now, you keep doing what you're doing. We're going to work to resolve that here.
That figured out.
Yeah. Next, we have John Patterson.
Greetings, I'm John Patterson. I live at 3497 North Hills Road. First of all, I wanted to voice my approval for the 4 stop signs at Sardis Road and School Road. I think they are serving their purpose well. I travel that route quite a bit. I'm back and forth and through it a number of times every week, and I'm glad you did it. I think it's a good thing. I'm sure there's some people who don't like it, but I think it's a good thing. That being said, I wanted to mention what I think is an issue on North Hills Road as far as speeding. About 3 weeks ago, there was a major accident where a car hit a telephone pole at apparently a pretty high speed. And I think it was going up. That's the way the accident looked to me, through the guardrail into the pole. And the power was out for about 3 hours. The utility company did a good job getting it back on. But there is a problem. They're actually coming the other way for the most part. When people come down that road around the swimming pool, they tend to fly when you get a little bit of a straightaway there from where you hit the valley, so to speak, there, until you make another turn about a quarter of a mile down the road. And people, and it actually happens the other way too. Even at rush hour today when I got in, you can tell. I mean, I don't have anything to gauge people's speed, but you can pretty much tell when somebody's going 35 to 40, which is fine because it's 35 and that's acceptable. But there are plenty of people who drive that road and they're going 40 to 50 miles an hour and maybe even above. One motorcycle in particular, especially during the warmer months, just flies down North Hills Road. And cars do it too. I've noticed since I've moved here about 3.5 years ago that people do tend to drive too fast on the back roads. And woe be to you if you're driving the speed limit, you're going to get tailgated. And I would like to see you do something about that speeding situation on North Hills Road, both ways, between the swimming pool and then at the other end, again, roughly a quarter mile down the road, where you have another bend in the road. I don't know if it just requires emphasis somehow with more signs or a blinker, or you need some enforcement there. Which I'm not saying we need to be writing 1 million tickets, but you may need to write a few to get people to slow down. So I think and that's a sincere assessment as best as what I've seen and heard. So if you could do something to slow the traffic down there, I think that would be a very good situation. One other thing, a couple years ago, when I moved in here on North Hills Road, there was a very serious problem with trash pickup. And I worked with Mrs. Ling and Mr. Nestico for a couple months, and they finally got it resolved, and Republic started to pick up the trash, as they should do. And I do appreciate that. But maybe some similar logic or influence could be supplied to drivers to get them to slow down on that road. May I ask one more question?
Sure.
A different subject. In light of a discussion that you had a few months ago regarding the potential of AI data centers, possibly moving into some land in Murraysville, have you thought any more about that, or are you starting to develop any kind of zoning? And again, that's open-ended. I'm just curious.
The discussion is currently ongoing in Planning Commission. They're the first ones that will see it and discuss it and give recommendations to council. And then we fine-tune it from there.
Okay, thank you. And again, if you can do something about North Hills Road in terms of the traffic speed, that would be greatly
Mr. Patterson,
appreciated.
just to clarify,
Yeah.
from Murraysville Swim Club toward School Road? Or
No,
toward-
from
toward start-
Murraysville.
Toward Old 22, the other.
Yes.
The southern direction, okay.
Right,
So that's the concern, is that downward trajectory and then flat to
right,
get down toward Murraysville Cleaners, that section?
yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
And 3 families with children have moved there too in the last year and a half. And then you have a few families already there towards Old William Penn. Fortunately, they're good. I mean, the kids stay up in their yards, but you never know.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
you.
We appreciate when you guys bring that to light. Our police department does do a good job whenever we get specifics like that. Mike will make sure we note to the chief and see if we can have them monitor a little bit and see if there's anything we could do. I know we also have those temporary speed signs that they can put there temporarily to kind of gauge things. So, we'll make sure that the chief and his department look into that. Thank you very much. All right, that moves us on to liaison comments and committee reports. We'll start down with Matt.
EAC was,
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to see if there are any other?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Before we move-
Just for the good of the order, is there anyone in the crowd that would like to speak for public comment? Thanks, Mike. Nope, okay. That'll move us to the
my
liaison.
turn now?
Now Matt can.
It's going to be short. EAC was canceled in March. Next meeting is next week on the 28th.
All right.
Okay. Mine won't be short. So, library, in lieu of their regular board meeting, had their kind of grand, I don't want to say opening, but kind of, yeah, grand reopening. Today we stopped in. It was lovely. The study rooms that they put in that are all glass are phenomenal, bright light. Everybody should really go and check out all the renovations that the library did. They put a lot of time, grant work, everything in there. And then it will be regular meeting next month. The Planning Commission met Tuesday, April 14th. There was a discussion, we're going to have that a little bit later tonight, on SP 1-26, which was the Eaton Park moving from that main island-type building to the end by where Radio Shack, guys remember where Radio Shack was? Over, they're going to have some outdoor seating area. I think it'll be really nice. And then either a partial or a complete demolition and then rebuilding of 3,000 square feet where the Eaton Park now is. That was recommended to move on to council. Then Franklin Regional was in to talk about two different things. One was the baseball field at Haymaker Park. They are asking for 9 waivers on that, one of which was a lighting waiver, and I asked why that was, and they said because they're not planning on putting lighting there. Another item was the multi-purpose field and the softball field, they were both tabled, so they're not quite ready for us. The fourth item was a conceptual plan, so it was just discussion for Westmoreland Heritage Trail, which is at the corner of State Road 66 and Industrial Drive. The caveat to that is the parcel is kind of split between Salem Township and Murraysville, so they are looking maybe to do a zoning change to convert what it currently is to public land. And then our last item was what we were just talking, it was a discussion on the Murraysville zoning ordinance, which included what Mr. Bassetti was referring to, but also data centers and solar farming. So they said they're going to send for the public hearing. So now it's classified as pending ordinance. So we're somewhat protected before the ordinance then comes into play, since it's considered to be pending ordinance. So that's where we're at. Next meeting will be May 12th.
I was, excuse me, I was traveling during the last FTMSA meeting, but I will be able to attend May 21st.
The Franklin Regional School Board is going to meet April 27th next week. And Michael, were you able to pull up the flyer for the disc golf? So the Murraysville Parks and Rec Foundation has been actively working on the disc golf sponsorship, not only the course itself, which is pretty much in final stages, which is exciting, but to any local groups, organizations, businesses, individuals that do want to be involved, we do have sponsorship opportunities, and those range from $150 up to full sponsors, $2,000. Course kiosks, the signage all around the park. There's a lot of great opportunities. So if anybody does have any interest, please feel free to reach out. It's okay, Michael, if you can't. Just want to let people know that we're
Should be able to
actively
pull it up
moving in that direction.
Let's see, just so we can get a graphic on the screen there. I apologize.
There we go.
Yep, there you are.
So again, please feel free to reach out to M. Would you mind scrolling up just a little bit there? Get the M.
Yes, sorry. And I don't know if I pulled the correct draft. This is if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to speak for you. I think this is a document that they approved the proof and they're going to get published.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a proof, but at the end of the day, if you want to scroll down just a little bit, Michael, there's an email there. Obviously, the phone number, the MPR Foundation at Murraysville.com. Obviously, feel free to reach out to myself or to Carly if anybody has interest. But we'll continue to keep the public abreast of this, and it's pretty exciting. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement, I know with Parks and Rec too, about that disc golf. It's going to be an exciting thing for Murraysville, I think. People kind of come far and wide to go to different ones in other communities, so we look forward to having one here. Anything else there?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Mike?
Murraysville Medic 1 met last Thursday. Their subscription drive is still ongoing. We're up to about 20% subscription, so I'd like to get that number a little bit higher. There will be a second mailing going on of that, so if you didn't get your first mailing, you may see that. Again, we talked about this last month. The subscriptions are a big help for having that be an ongoing and vital contributor to the community. And if you ever need the service, whether you're young or old, there's a wide range of people who use it. It's very beneficial to you. Given the subscription drive money coming in, they are in the black for we're in the black for March and April. We did note though we were a lot less in the black than we normally would be because of fuel prices. So obviously hoping that's somewhat of a temporary issue, but for an agency that obviously puts a lot of miles on the road with their ambulances, fuel is a big component, and something that hopefully that we won't be able to have an issue with much longer. I also relayed to them what we had talked about last month, that council was open to having their executive director, present at a council meeting for a more comprehensive report, and suggested that maybe that we could start doing that on an annual basis as something. So all council kind of gets at least once a year, a thorough update on the state of Medic One, how many calls they've done, where they're doing calls, and that sort of thing. So they're very excited to do that, and Derek should be coordinating with Michael, to find a good time on our calendar that works for that kind of meeting.
All right. Parks and Recreation, they were scheduled to meet last Tuesday. The meeting had to be canceled due to not enough members being there to have a quorum. So the next meeting is the second Tuesday of May. So, all right, that moves us on to workshop items. Under administration, we have 9A, which is a discussion of stormwater credit manual.
Yes, sorry, just taking a last note there. Yes, item 9A is listed on the agenda for discussion of the stormwater credit manual. We last discussed this item, I think roughly 2 meetings ago. At that time, there was a lot of discussion about some of there was feedback as to the existing draft version, concerns about the incentives within the stormwater credit program, how that may impact potential revenue or fee generation from the program itself, and essentially which credit opportunities to offer to the community. So those were all different parts of the discussion. If council recalls, we ended that discussion asking to bring the consultant back in from LSSE. So Sean Wingrove is here from LSSE. He was previously presented before council on the stormwater fee and the study itself that was conducted, and ultimately, as council led into the implementation of the stormwater fee ordinance. So he is here able to answer questions or provide feedback to council based on his experience with other stormwater fees in surrounding communities. They've done quite a bit of this work for other communities as well. So we do have him here available to council. And that is, I guess, a brief introduction or summary of where we left off. So, I don't know, Sean, if you'd like to approach. Again, the credit manual is a draft version. We do need to implement, we should implement some form of a credit program as called for in the ordinance. And so what we're working toward is trying to kind of iron out what we want that stormwater credit manual to look like so that we can then move the stormwater fee process forward. Again, I don't know if council has any immediate or specific questions, or if you'd like to maybe hear a little bit from Sean as to his analysis. I think he reviewed the credit manual. He and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago regarding his feedback. So I guess I'll maybe turn it back over to council for any questions.
I think it's probably be best maybe just to hear from Sean first, and then we'll open it up to questions from council and have some dialogue there.
Yep.
Sean, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, no problem. Good to see everybody again. For the new council members who weren't here when I was here last, again, Sean Wingrove with LSSE. Yeah, as Michael mentioned, we had a quick conversation, I don't know, a couple weeks ago when we set the meeting up here, and just kind of picked my brain as far as what we've seen practically in other communities when it goes to implementation. Because the first part of this is very predictable, as we talked. The system's very routine. And then as it goes to implementation, we've got a little bit of a reactionary portion to help residents and property owners understand what the fee is, what their options are, if they think they're being billed incorrectly, and what their opportunities for credit are. Like we talked when I was here before, you have to, aside from should, you have to create a credit system. If somebody's doing something on their property, and beyond have to, we want to incentivize people to do the right thing and help us with stormwater and our permit overall. So as we move towards implementation, and there's really two two items we'll need to address when bills go out to residents. First is an appeal. The appeal basically becomes primarily for those non-residential properties. So if somebody thinks their impervious area was incorrectly calculated, they submit a form to the municipality to say, you said I had 10,000 square feet, I actually only think I have 8,000, here's my sketch, we need to meet in the field, kind of look through there, come to an agreement. Based on how we did this as far as aerial photography, sometimes stuff changes, but those are pretty straightforward. You'll vet those in the first year of implementation, and those will stick, they'll move forward. And then you may have somebody that feels that they were miscategorized. Hey, I lumped in the non-single family category, but I'm really just a house. You fix that there. So those more procedural and really straightforward. They are what they are, really not much ambiguity there. You may get a philosophical appeal that we'll work through, and we can help certainly craft a response on why and what the benefits of this are and the reasoning. So from the credit perspective, though, what we've found in our communities that have adopted this is simplicity is really everybody's friend as far as implementation. The big ones from a credit perspective that most consider are, we'll call it different things, but peak rate attenuation, volume attenuation, basically a stormwater control measure or BMP credit. So if you've got a BMP on site, you have a detention basin, you have an infiltration tank, you have a rain garden, whatever, you're eligible for credit. And a lot of what Michael put together here talks about that, different sorts of BMPs, what credit they would get, how would you submit. We've found that a relatively straightforward submittal up front, give us some photos, show that it's been maintained, let us know if there's not an O&M plan recorded already, who is the entity responsible for maintenance, so we can help from a permitting perspective to track all these down. And then give us some information on when it was built, that kind of thing, the basic data for the pond or for the detention tank, whatever that may be. And then there'll be a sliding scale there, and that'll be a policy decision for council here as far as where you want to set the fee. Michael and I talked that 50% is usually around the going rate. If you have a functioning, maintained, which is really important, maintained BMP, if it's overgrown, it hasn't been touched in 2 decades, no credit, obviously. But a functioning, maintained BMP, that's usually the starting point for discussion from a credit perspective. So that one pretty straightforward. I'll tell you candidly, too, that in most of our communities, there hasn't been a huge rush of people filing these for existing BMPs. Where you'll see them most frequently is as somebody comes through Planning Commission and gets approval for land development here. To meet your ordinance, they have to have a stormwater plan that has to count for credit. So they'll get the credit moving forward. You'll get a handful of touch-up or clean-up ones for what was. Again, usually in the first year, and then those can perpetuate. From a residential perspective, then that also gives the opportunity, where we see this most frequently, is if a homeowners association is responsible for a pond, they can apply collectively, and that credit would apply to all the individual residents in that plan. Because from a cost-benefit analysis, it doesn't really make much sense, given the magnitude of the fee for somebody to build a rain garden on their own property for, maybe on the order of half of $7 a month. So that's one. Rain barrel credit, some communities have chosen to do that from a residential perspective, similar to what's in your packet here. One-time fee, not recurring, help basically defray the cost of purchasing it. And then the other one that's common that's in here is a little bit outside of the box, but it's the education or involvement credit to help with the municipality's MS4 requirement for those 2 items, your MCM 1 and 2 requirements of public education, public involvement. Those groups within the community that have, I guess for lack of a better term, a captive audience, students or a congregation or somebody that can do some sort of cleanup event, some sort of education event, that helps the community here defray costs, and we found that to be successful in other communities to help, especially a lot of those times, those that have an audience like that are nonprofits, so it helps them to defray some of their costs, but gives us, municipality a benefit in our permitting requirements. So those are the three most common ones. We've found those to be successful in a lot of communities, in the lens of try to keep it straightforward for people. A basic application form, a good guide like this that people aren't guessing as far as what they need to submit, and remembering on the back end to keep the burden from an administrative perspective for the administrative staff here not too burdensome, in that we're spending hours and hours reviewing an application for, not a lot of benefit, that kind of thing. So I think those are the key factors we've seen from other communities to kind of a successful credit policy. So, off the top of my head, spiel, I'm happy to answer questions, though, certainly in specifics, anything we've had elsewhere, or that may be on the mind of council.
Michael, remind me, I think we talked about this one other time. If somebody wants to file an appeal, what's that process look like? How long does it take?
I don't know that we have it completely ironed out. They would fill out an application. That would be published with all of the different documents that we would have, the manual, the ordinance. We would create probably a place on our website for that. So they would fill out that credit application, the appeal form, or the credit application, either one, and then that would be submitted to the municipality for review. And in the case of an appeal, we would then review the figures that were provided through the study, and then I guess do an individual analysis to determine whether or not, we believe that their appeal is valid or not. We would, I guess, then notify the resident from there. And I think that the way that it's currently written, if they disagree with the decision of administration, then it ultimately may become a council decision for a final appeal. And I don't know if that's how it's done in other communities. I think that's how we're structured currently here.
Yeah, that's the typical procedure. I think very, very, very few, I don't even know that I can remember a specific example, that actually make it to the governing body. Most of the time, these are pretty cut and dry. The ones that become all odd are farms and kind of some different type of uses, but most of the time, municipality and the resident can come to some common understanding.
So, the information you provided in here and there is very helpful. And, there are a couple of points that are, really why this is not as big an issue as it would be for some other municipalities. And you note this, the ERU being 5,800 square feet, that's a very large ERU compared to some communities. Some of them are as low as 2,000 square feet. And the relatively low number of large commercial properties that are getting very large fees, again, makes some of this a little bit less of a big deal than it would be otherwise. But I think the one thing that kind of we discussed, and I think kind of why we came here, is particularly if there were new developments going in or existing developments, whether or not the percentage basis on the BMPs is enough to encourage them to actually want to do them, or if this is, for lack of a better word, kind of a paper credit that is there, so you say you have it, but if you are getting 100%, let's say you did have a community that put in a BMP that was taking care of 100% of the stormwater, and you're only getting a 35% benefit of that, would you even do it? So this is kind of for council as a whole, but also, would there be a percentage, and I'm specifically talking about the BMPs. I agree completely that we want a very simple credit. And so the only credit that really is the one that, for me, I think is very valuable are the ones that are directly putting in infrastructure that is benefiting the municipal stormwater. And I do think it's beneficial to do that. Would there be a percentage that you would see that would be, maybe a little bit more equitable from that range? I know it impacts the revenue as well, but we're trying to balance out a few different things here.
Yes. So, it is a tight balance too of what you collect and incentivizing people to do something, because inherently there's value And I think this is where you're going. There's value to the community in somebody having a maintained,
Yes.
operating BMP.
Correct.
It's either A, not there, or B, like I said earlier, hasn't been touched in 20 years. From a new development perspective, everybody that comes through, they're going to check their box right away. And it's going to incentivize them to actually maintain it. I think that 50% does well to do that. That's what we found in other communities, and it gets people, gets the ball moving to maintain. And actually for existing, I would say the 50% ballpark is probably about right. When we did the calculation here too, from an assumption perspective, because we know that there's going to be credits that come in, and we want to not incorrectly set the baseline either. There's a baked-in assumption for credits in the number as well, and you'll see that range in there as far as what's what in the study. That assumption uses 50% actually. We assume that a quarter of the non-residential properties would get credit at a rate of 50%. I would hesitate going closer to, if you're 90 or 100, I think that creates a concern from, because inevitably, even if you had a BMP that controlled stormwater, it meets all the requirements, when you develop a site, those all control rate. Peak rate can't be higher. You still have more stormwater from a volume perspective coming from those sites. So they do have an increased impact on your system compared to a vacant site. It may not be at a higher rate, but the hose is running longer, basically. There's more water coming out into the system to address.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding, correctly, because correct, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the most current draft has the structural BMP max credit capped at 35. That's right. Correct? But you're saying that the study was assuming up to 50? So
Our study, yes.
So if we aligned with 50, we could do that without, impacting the revenue assumptions?
Your revenue projection, right, doesn't change then.
Okay. So
And the distribution then for the 3 subcategories of the structural BMPs would have to change proportionally.
Well, let me ask you that. So are all these revenue numbers here based on that assumed 50% credit?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So if we, again, just want to make sure I'm doing this, have it right, but if we amended the draft to allow for up to 50% credit for structural BMPs, all the numbers would still be the same as what's in the packet here.
Correct.
Okay.
Within a factor of some assumption,
Yeah.
there's a range there, but yes, you're in the range that the kind of summary and executive summary gives you of what collections would be. But the 965 that we settled on is what we think we want to collect. I'd be pretty confident that at 50% here, you're going to be right there in collections.
Now, I think to make that work, I think you would also need still need the total credit cap to be also 50, right? Because there's additional credits here. You would, if those cumulatively went above 50%, then you would be impacting the numbers. But as long as the cumulative cap did not go above 50, you could get up to 50% for a structural BMP and still be within our budget.
So I just want to make sure that I'm reading this chart correctly, because the last time I read it, I said it was a little bit confusing. So when we're talking about the cumulative effect of just the structural BMPs on top of the buffer credit and the restoration credit, I mean, as you were saying, I believe it was the last time we discussed this, you theoretically could get 100% credit if those were all cumulative.
Well, I think we discussed, I
But
asked
we
that.
said that wasn't going to happen.
But I think I asked that question. I think Michael said no, that there is still a total credit cap.
I just want to be sure that I know what you're referring to before I answer.
Okay.
Are you
So
in
this
the
is
credit manual?
the summary of available credits.
Got it. Okay,
in
I'm
the
on that
credit
same page.
manual.
Got you. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know whether there needs to be like some asterisks on there to kind of clarify that, because I don't think for
Supporting.
somebody who's looking over this to see what they would qualify for, that there's enough clarity there for them. And I know it's still a working document. Now, when I did just a quick calculation here on my calculator, where I just went and did the 35%, and I'm assuming they're all getting the 35% as opposed to the quarter that you're assuming at 50%, I got roughly about the same number.
Okay.
You know, so I just want to make sure we're not going to put, and I think we clarified that, any kind of burden on the residents to make up the difference if we change the number. You know, if there's a shortfall, I guess is what I'm saying. I want to make sure that's.
If I may, so that we're all on the same page, I just want to be sure I'm also understanding. When the study was conducted, it had an anticipated revenue figure of $1,017,000, and then that was based on the 12,109 ERUs. I think the language said that it assumed a 10% credit overall that dropped that anticipated revenue or fee generation down to 933,000. So I think those were the numbers that were provided, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Sean?
Yeah, so 1,017,000, that's the assumption if everybody pays full freight, then you have 100% collection, you have no delinquency, right? That's the ceiling. The other number, 933,660, that's the assumption if you take the commercial properties, non-single family, if you assume a quarter of them get credit.
Okay.
That would be what we think is going to be your floor. Because I doubt you're going to have a quarter of them apply. You may have some residential properties apply in the scenario we talked about earlier. If somebody, an HOA applies, that's not going to swing the pendulum that much, really, from a collections perspective. So, those are kind of the upper and lower bounds of the assumption there, and settled then at $7 an ERU a month, puts you in the middle there, close to that $965 total budget that we aimed for.
And that quarter is a max 50%.
Correct.
And max 50.
And so to be clear to council, I think this may have been what you were asking, Michael, but when the credit manual was drafted, again, a draft version, I utilized numbers that were kind of common throughout other municipalities, so it didn't correlate to those numbers that we just discussed. So it wasn't that the 35% would have gotten you to this number, because again, it's an unknown. So Sean clearly explained where his figures came from. This credit manual was, again, just simply a draft. So if you go up to the 50% and make the same assumptions, then you'd be, again, right in that ballpark. This was just put together kind of independently of the study to provide a framework for the credit manual itself, and then ultimately the decision has to be made on the percentage.
And what the draft says now, if you look on page 10, right under credit details, that non-flat rate property owners may apply for one or more BMP credits. The credits will be cumulative up to a maximum credit of 35 for that property's SMP fee. In no circumstance may a credit or a group of credits reduce the applicable SMP fee to an amount that is less than 65%. So right now, the draft, no matter what you do, you're capped at 35.
Correct.
I think based on the fact that it would actually align with the numbers that we already have, I think we could get this done if we moved both the cumulative and the BMP number to 50%. So nobody can get more than a 50% credit, and you can get up to 50% credit for your BMP. That's giving a little bit more of an incentive for people to do the BMPs. And again, from what you've told us, from a financial standpoint, that is in line with what we looked at when we put this in place.
It was baked into the assumptions of the analysis. Yep.
So that's what I would propose we do, and then because I know we need to get this thing finalized.
I have one more question, and it's not about the BM. It's not about the same thing. So, as far as the credit expirations go, when it says expiration is 5 years after application of approval date, is that renewable? Or is it complete, do they have to reapply after, can they reapply after 5 years, or does it completely expire with no renewal?
One, everything is discretionary. It's what we set it at. But the way that it's intended to be and the way that it's written now, you would reapply every 5 years. So again, the idea being that we don't want the time frame to be too small where it creates an administrative burden to go out and inspect or review or have people submit information. But you want it to be at least regular enough so that there is some oversight to ensure that it is functioning properly. So is that pretty common with?
Yes, and part of that too is the next MS4 permit gets unveiled by the department that they're still working on. It's going to be far more important than it is today for the municipality to be able to say with confidence, these BMPs are functioning properly. So this incentive to have people catch them up and maintain them and in periodic increments know that they're maintained is going to help you with your the next layer of your MS4 permit, this volume management plan. Because all the stuff that's in play today, all the ponds, deduct from the number that you're going to have to meet with the next permit, but we have to be able to say with a straight face, these are functioning properly. So this is a good mechanism to do that.
That actually brings up another point I wanted to, the manual currently allows for pervious pavement to be used as a BMP, correct?
Yeah, we didn't take that out. We discussed
How do you feel about whether a 5-year period is a reasonable period of time for those to be maintained? My understanding is that those, if they're not properly maintained, they lose their pervious qualities very quickly.
Fill with fine. So this becomes somewhat a matter of nuance too, in that as you're vetting these applications, something like permeable pavers, that it's not just blocks on this much gravel too. You know, I mean, we're looking for storage below. This is a true stormwater BMP of permeable pavers, not just decorative blocks on the ground. In that scenario, I would rely on kind of design information for those. And in Michael's point, some of these may need a little bit of discretion in coming through. And if that says they get swept every 6 months, every year, then I think it'd be appropriate to have, if it's a commercial entity especially, have them submit something to the municipality to, that we did this, maybe check that one more often.
Do you, in your experience, do you have any kind of forecast, say, over the next 4 to 5 years or whenever the next requirements come out, what type of cost increase that might entail?
It's hard to say at this point, and admittedly, not being in the weeds of the municipality's MS4 program here, we've done so far, except for the fee. Difficult to say. I would think, though, again, this next layer to turn is this volume management plan. You're going to have capital improvements. Our best guess is it's going to be similar to the PRP plan that they're just completed or are finishing there, that magnitude of scale. And that's what we assumed from a permit compliance perspective in the report, that it was going to be there. And we put a placeholder in here for $325,000 annually for these capital improvements, and based on information that's out there from the department, we think that makes sense for the community.
Thank you.
Like I said, I think I would be comfortable if the rest of the council is moving forward with the 50% number. And I think also on the pervious surface or really anything else, so long as we are ensuring that our engineer, when reviewing all these BMPs when they come in, is ensuring that they are appropriate and effective, I think I'd be okay with that.
I would support that.
I would as well. Same.
I think in our last discussion, if I'm not mistaken, talked about removing potentially the stream restoration credit and some of these other, that was, I think, one that stood out as maybe not going to be utilized. And so, again, not trying to put too much in here and complicate it. I also did have a note that council was in favor of the rain barrel credit as something for the residential properties. Yes. So, and again, if we get to the 50%, if you like the way that the manual is structured now, then we can go in there and address each of those categories of a BMP to add it up to the 50%, similar to how it gets to the 35 now. And then we can come back with that draft for council.
Yep. I'm good with it.
Good with that.
Any other questions for Sean regarding this manual before? I think he's
Thank you for coming
Yeah,
back.
thank you,
Thank you.
Sean. It was a great insight to hear what you had to say
Time
in
without you.
regards to that.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Sean came directly from PSATs in Harrisburg, so he drove directly to our building. So
Educated this morning.
appreciative of him making it here timely and being able to fit us in. So thank you, Sean.
Travels.
All right. That moves us on to 9B, which is still part of this, the discussion of stormwater billing services. Mike?
Yes, so
Maybe
council,
conversation?
oh, I apologize. Yes, council, I should recall, we did put out an RFP regarding the billing services for the stormwater program. We did receive 3 proposals for billing services. They were from Keystone Collections, Berkheimer, and the Turtle Creek Valley COG, which is based in Monroeville. Keystone Collections, I think we're all familiar with, as they are the property tax collector for the municipality. Berkheimer does collect the earned income taxes within the county and for the municipality as well. And then the Turtle Creek COG, they do stormwater billing for the municipality of Monroeville, as well as, I believe, one other community. It could be Turtle Creek. I'm not 100% sure, but I do have another community that they represent. It is in their RFP submission. So staff did review the 3 submissions. I did try to provide a briefing to council. I think all 3 have a lot of positive qualities as to the service that they provide. Ultimately, after reviewing it, with staff, it appeared that Keystone may be the best option for the municipality. That would probably be staff recommendation. We do have a relationship with them as they are the property tax collector. They have a fully integrated service from billing all the way down to collections for delinquencies. Everything that they do is handled in-house. They have a pretty straightforward process. And ultimately, the cost to go with Keystone does seem to be the least expensive option. Berkheimer was a close second as far as the service they provide and the cost, but their pricing structure is a little bit uncertain because of the way they treat not only the process payments, but then also sending out notices as reminders or to address delinquencies. So I think that the cost could add up pretty quickly on the back end. The Turtle Creek COG, unfortunately, as much as they are a local COG and they do offer a really nice service, they have a pretty detailed process that is oriented specifically to municipal billing, but unfortunately it's a little bit more of an expensive option, probably not something that would be in consideration. So again, staff's recommendation at this point, based on, bless you, based on the 3 RFP submissions, is probably looking at Keystone. But again, this is an item for council to consider. Certainly, I'll be able to answer any questions the council may have. This is just a discussion item. It is not listed on the agenda for any action. Again, following the feedback from council, I'm happy to provide further follow-up or put it on a subsequent agenda if council feels prepared with the information provided. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. If there are any.
I would say just looking at the fee structure and how you laid it out in the chart, I'm on board with the Keystone. I'm fine.
Agreed. People are already used to
Yeah,
it.
everyone's kind of used to that here too. I think, yeah. I mean, there's probably something more, get the manual and do that first, right?
Yes, so we can approve them as the collector. It will take a little bit of time for implementation. We'll have to send them some spreadsheets and get the data to them to begin to build out the billing process. But ultimately, we will have to get the credit manual in order. So again, I'll come back with that at a subsequent meeting, rework the numbers as we've just discussed. Once that credit manual is in place, then we kind of have the framework from the ordinance, the manual, the appeal process, all of the forms will be prepared, and then we'll be comfortable going out to billing. At that point, Keystone if they are the selected provider, they would probably have everything built out and ready to go. So it's kind of happening sequentially here. It's just,
Like, does it make it easier for them too, just the fact that they're doing already collections for us to where the municipality, the people here are in the database? It's a matter of assigning the number to each individual or business?
I would think there would be some value to that, but keep in mind the difference between the stormwater fee billing and the tax collection process is that there are folks, property owners that will receive a stormwater fee bill that are not part of the tax collection process, some of those exempt properties. So it probably has some benefit, but ultimately it will be a new spreadsheet, a new database. There was discussion about trying to include it on a tax bill, but a lot of the feedback we received said that that may lead to more complication. You want to keep that separate. It's not a tax. You don't want it to be perceived as a tax as well. So a lot of different reasons why we want to keep it separate, but ultimately they do provide a good service to us. They communicate very effectively with us. So I think that it would be a good decision. And ultimately, what we would be looking at, again, it was mentioned in the briefing, probably important to mention here in public meeting, but we would be looking at a 3-year agreement. That way it gives us enough time to get implemented and have a working relationship with the billing provider. But if we do run into issues or have any difficulties after the first couple of years, we can always go back to the drawing board and reconsider how we want to approach it if things aren't working out. So that's essentially what we're looking at here.
All right, great. Any other questions for Mike? Nope. All right. That moves us on. Nothing under engineering, nothing under community development, public works and parks. That moves us to our council action items. 13A was removed as an action item, so that moves us to 13B. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the 2026 cost of living COLA adjustment in the amount of 2.4% for eligible retired members of the Uniform Pension Plan.
Second.
We'll go Jamie and Mike. That was a close one, though. Mike?
Yes, this is an item that we do annually. Acrisure, formerly Mockenhop, does the calculation. For this year, the percentage is 2.4%. The collective bargaining agreement that's in place dictates the maximum COLA permitted for retirees. So this is a number that is based on, from the actuarial provider, based on the National Urban Cost of Living Index, and it is an item that is approved annually by council.
Any questions? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes. That moves us to 13C. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number 816-26, a resolution to dispose of certain municipal records in accordance with the state records retention policy.
Second.
Thank you, Michael and Jamie. Mike?
Yes, this is, again, something that happens periodically within the municipality when there are certain records that can be disposed of. All items of significant importance or with certain retention policies have been scanned and properly preserved. Any documents with personal identifying information would be shredded. So again, this is a resolution to approve disposal of certain records that, again, occur periodically within the municipality.
Pretty straightforward. We do this a lot. Any questions? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Can I get a motion for 13D?
Motion to appoint Martin Fascione to the Environmental Advisory Council to fill the vacant unexpired term ending December 31, 2028.
Second.
Thank you, Jamie and Matt.
Not much to report on this one. There is a vacancy on the Environmental Advisory Council. The term expires December 31st of 28, and they are looking forward to Mr. Fascione being appointed. I believe he has been attending meetings as a volunteer, and so he's seeking the formal appointment.
All right. Any questions from anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you for his volunteering to do that service. 13E, please. Can I get a motion?
Motion to appoint Molly Creenan to the library board to fill the vacant unexpired term ending December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Thank you, Darren and Jamie.
Again, pretty straightforward. There is a vacancy on the library board. The current chair has voiced support for the appointment. As you can see, it does expire at the end of this year. That is the current vacancy. That is the time period of when this vacancy will end. And so if Ms. Creenan wishes, she can be reappointed again at the beginning of next year. But the term currently has a little less than 8 months left on it.
All right, pretty straightforward again. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you again to Molly Creenan for her volunteering to do that. That moves us to Community Development, 14A. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve SP-1-26, Eaton Park relocation land development.
Thank you, Jason and Matt. Mike?
Yes, so the applicant is here. This is for approval of an Eaton Park relocation land development. The application is proposing partial demolition and remodel of an existing storefront in the Village of Murraysville Shopping Plaza with an outdoor dining area, associated landscaping improvements, and the addition of a drive-through pickup window, tax parcel 4914070007. This is at 4566 William Penn Highway. Property is 7.02 acres, Zone B business. Again, the applicant is here and can present to council or answer any questions. Just for some background, this item did go before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission and staff do recommend approval of this project. The plan does call for the partial demolition and remodel of the existing building where Rob's Pizza, Infinity Comics, and the Eye Care Greengate business were located. In addition to the demo and remodel, Eaton Park proposes to add an outdoor dining patio, landscaping, and the drive-through pickup window. That pickup window will be for call ahead and online orders. It's not used for food ordering similar to like a fast food restaurant. The Planning Commission, at the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant stated the new lease stipulates Eaton Park must reduce the building size to 3,000 square feet or less. I don't believe a decision was made at that time as to whether the entire building will be demolished or turned into additional parking for the plaza or rebuilt into a smaller building. So again, the applicant may be able to answer some questions there. There will only be one minor change to the traffic flow in the plaza because of the project. Again, with the addition of the pickup window, it does reduce the drive aisle on the east side of the building where it no longer meets the ordinance requirements. So to adjust for that, ensure compliance with the ordinance, they're going to modify the drive aisle to now be a one-way only. So again, the applicant is present and can certainly answer any questions, outstanding questions for council.
Mike, just as a reminder, this came in front of us when they were going to remodel the original one, right, before?
There was
Then
a
it expired and went out, and then this is now completely different.
This is
That's not
completely
that
different. Yes,
building
the
they're
last- that's
moving.
correct. I'm
Okay.
sorry to talk over
No,
you.
I remember it coming through. Were you? I don't know if you were on.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just out of curiosity, what will be the seating capacity in the new?
Mike, please. Thank you.
You can just state your name and who you're with for the record.
Jesse Stock, representing Eaton Park Hospitality Group. Seating capacity, I have to look at it. It's going to be pretty close to the addition we were proposing the last time. I love being with all of you, so I came back again, just like seeing you too much. So it'd be similar. It's probably around like 224 seats, somewhere in that range. Don't hold me to that because the layout isn't. Obviously, we can go through permitting process yet, just the zoning side.
Do you happen to have an occupant for the new island? I'll call it an island where Eaton Park is now. I'm just curious.
The current one?
Yeah.
I don't recall it now because we were so focused on expanding that, right? The last time I was here, we were adding on about 3,000 more square feet or somewhere close to that with the pickup window and other options there to make it closer to that 240. It's usually most of our Eaton Parks are in that from a seating capacity, right? We're not talking total occupancy because there's individuals working in our kitchens and other areas. So this would be similar to that size-wise. When you look at the one that's currently there was 6,000 square feet, and then it wasn't 3,000, it was like 1,800 we're going to add to it, so a little over 7,000, similar size square footage to this unit. Our main driver on this, we talked to the landowner after we got the last approval, as they had different options we weren't aware of, and we're in full support of this because of the amenities that it brings, right, with the outdoor dining, our location, also the safety factor of the pickup window, not that it's high volume, but being on the backside, right, then having this full drive around our existing building, so were some features that we really thought were impactful. Also, the fact that we could build this and keep our restaurant open, keep all of our team members employed, also keep our guests happy at that time, was very impactful.
Just looking at, in our packet here, it looks like there were, at least on March 6th, there were 2 comments still outstanding. Do we know if those have been addressed? Essentially, it was a comment asking to show the proposed value of the maximum lot coverage and impervious lot coverage, and then also a question about landscaping and a response to some EAC comments.
So Adam Ferry, Ferry Land Company. I'm the landowner, landlord. Yes, both have been addressed. The survey was updated and submitted to the municipality with the pervious-impervious calculation. As a result of this project, there's a slight improvement in amount of pervious surface for the parcel as a whole. The landscaping commentary, Mike Wozniak and I had a conversation. He said essentially the question was, what happened to the trees that used to be along Old William Penn Highway? And the power company at one point cut them back to the point where they died. So they were then subsequently removed.
Thank you. And just so if I understood, Michael, you said that the Planning Commission had this building reduced in size to 3,000 square foot?
No, I was reading from the briefing, and again, I don't want to misstate. Let me pull that back up.
Bring that back up.
I can do that, yes, that's no problem. And again, I think the applicant could probably clarify what.
Do we know why that was that to bring it in compliance with the SALDO or their requirements? Do we know what the reason for the reduction was?
It's a lease.
I think it was regarding the lease itself.
Oh, okay.
So that was within the negotiations between Ferry Land Company and Eden Park Corporation. The ideology behind it was twofold. One would be to increase the visibility of the plaza that is now partially, the visibility is partially blocked by that current building, so that would potentially improve visibility and then also add additional parking.
Just for background understanding, so the Eaton Park, Ferry Land Company owns the building Eaton Park presently is in, correct?
Correct.
So that's a lease, so you're just moving as tenant from there to there, so it's Ferry Land Company would still own the building that they're in, and the one that's going to be reduced in size. Is that
Correct.
Okay.
What's the excuse me? What's the drive-through? There looks to be some type of landscape and curb right after it. Is that visible to the driver? Like they're not going to run over that, in other words?
Correct, yeah, there would be visibility. What that does is right near there is our back door. We're trying to get the traffic to come away from the building so that if someone is exiting that back door, they're not walking right into a drive lane. It's just a matter of safety. There would be some taller landscaping and stuff there, right? Nothing too high, but something that you would see that the curb in that space.
And the only way to exit then is go all the way to the back side of the building, the opposite end?
Correct.
So you just come out down by Victor's luggage and, yeah, okay.
Also, don't visualize this as a quick serve, right? These are color
Right.
orders.
It's just for pickup.
Thank you.
Thank you. They bringing back the salad bar?
We are absolutely bringing back
was
the
gonna say,
salad
I'm
bar.
sure the
So
community's
we've been waiting. It's been sitting in storage because we thought we were going to put it in the
There
existing
you
one.
go.
So
All right. Good
Kids will be
thing.
thrilled.
Very happy. A lot of good memories eating that salad bar.
Definitely. Everyone asks when it's coming back. Okay. Any additional questions from council? Thank you guys for bringing what you did to the table. Anything, guys? Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. That moves us to 15A under engineering. Can I get a motion?
Motion to award the contract for DPW-4-26, the crack ceiling project to Russell Standard in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Jamie and Michael. Michael?
Yes, bids were open in late March. There were two bidders, Russell Standard and Matt Con Diamond. Russell Standard was the low bidder at $15,500. This item was included in the 2026 CIP with an approved budget of $30,000. So staff is recommending awarding the contract in the amount not to exceed $30,000. We're hoping that based on the amount that came in, we may be able to get a couple extra portions of the roadway done. So we're going to look at that as well. And again, that's why the amount is set at not to exceed
I was wondering
$30,000.
that, okay.
Any questions from anyone? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes. That moves us on to 16A under Public Works and Parks.
I'd like to make a motion to award the contracts for various road materials and line painting for the Department of Public Works for a contract year of June 1st, 2026 to May 31, 2027.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Jason and Darren. Michael?
Yes, this is an item approved annually to assist Public Works in securing all the different materials they need throughout the year. That includes stone, paint, pipe, things like that. If council looked at the spreadsheet, you'll see that prices went up on most of the items, not substantially, but a little bit. There are some areas where prices went up a little bit higher, and then a few where prices did get lower than the existing prices that we saw last year. Most of that is for signage for the roadways. So again, Public Works is asking to approve the contract for materials and line painting for the next year.
All right. Any questions from council? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Any old business?
Yes.
All right, Jamie's got old business.
I have two questions. The signage in the disc golf course, I had thought when we originally approved that there was already a sponsor that had it all completely covered. Am I misremembering that? Matt thought he remembered that same thing, that it would be completely covered. Because my next question would be, if we're saying no to the signage at MCP for, does it vary by park where we're allowed to put advertisements up? Because essentially, that's an advertisement.
I can maybe answer some of that.
Okay.
So I guess the first thing is there is an agreement specific to MCP regarding advertisements within the sports facilities. And that was an agreement when they transitioned the park from Haymaker over to the 3 ball fields. And so that agreement is specific to the sports organization's use of MCP. But to your first question, I don't know that answer offhand, so I don't want to misspeak. But I think that the discussion about signage for disc golf and a sponsorship was not necessarily for advertising, but for the actual hole marker signs, meaning like indicating the first hole, second hole. and having somebody support the project to acquire those signs. Now, I could be misstating that, and I don't know, I don't want to put Mr. Miller on the spot. I'm not sure if you were part of any of those meetings in the past with the Rec Commission.
No, I have not.
Okay.
I don't have
That's-
any comment
Okay.
on that.
Yeah, I was. I believe I do recall that being the case. That those are specifically, those signs are for instance, just like a golf course. So the first tee,
I don't
it would
golf.
say it would have the first tee, which would have the picture of the hole of what it looks like, and it would have a sponsorship from somebody, from what I understand. Bill's also sitting in the crowd shaking his head. He may know anything. If you know
I just
anything,
want to
feel
make
free
sure we're just being
chime in.
fair if we said no to one, if that's what it was, but if I'm mistaken, then that's fine.
Yeah,
We don't have to.
I believe it's only for that. They're not
I-
not putting advertisements like all over the place.
Yeah, I would like to go back to that original approval, because there's something telling me that the reason I said yes is because they said it was already completely paid for, and that there wouldn't have to be fundraising.
I do recall discussion regarding that, but I don't remember offhand. So I will report back to council, and I'll get you that answer, and I can
Okay.
look back to the meetings and see what was discussed.
Thank you. And then my other question was, do we know how long the Penn Franklin is going to be online? Are we going to be continuing to advertise in the Trib?
For the time being, yes. We cannot advertise in the online publication for the
Right.
Penn Franklin to satisfy the legal requirements. So for the short term, we are going to utilize the Trib. In the long term, we've heard feedback that the Penn Franklin will go back to print, but we certainly don't have anything to verify that or confirm it. So that has been the indication from the ownership, but we don't know. So we're kind of unsure as well. But in the
I had some
meantime,
community members asking, so.
yes, no, they have been asking, and we've seen some of that feedback as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a good answer to that. And in the short term, we are using the Trib to do the publication so that we satisfy our legal requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One last comment. I'm curious, Mike, going back to Jamie's comment, is the area of Bollinger where that park will be located, that is on MCP property, correct? I'm looking at a map via our Murraysville website, but I'm just trying to figure out where the lines are. I'm just curious.
That,
I don't know the answer
like
to
where
that.
the disc golf is?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, I guess that is all considered part of MCP. It's all municipal land. I can't say that I know for sure if there's a specific designation
Yeah, 'cause
of
I'm just
what
curious, yeah.
constitutes the actual park, but all of that is municipal land, I think from the dog park area all the way back to where the disc golf will be, some horse trails and some other things back there.
But the advertisement thing was specific just to the ball fields, I believe, from what I understand. But I think, to Jamie's point, maybe let's look into that first approval of how that was stated, because I remember that too, something with that, but.
I don't know if the
yeah.
funding just failed or what, so it would just be good to know.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
So I don't know.
Bill's raising his hand. If you know anything from, you have to step up to the mic, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. So the Parks and Recs Commission, we met with them, and the foundation said they had a donation, but they were worried about keeping the maintenance up with each hole and making sure the debris in an area is cleared throughout. So they were doing a sponsorship for each hole. And I think the sponsorship, if I'm not mistaken, they were saying no more than 5 years on the one sponsorship letter, and the different amounts. And what it's going to do is going to help with the maintenance throughout, so the municipality is not responsible for the maintenance. That this golf will be used to, that money will be used to maintain those different areas.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I
that
do
makes-
remember
that makes
discussion
sense.
around
I'm
that.
just
That does
glad
help
I'm
out.
not having a memory failure.
But yeah, let's still just look
Yeah,
into what
I-
that
I'm
was.
not that old yet.
No, and I think part of it is, if you recall, the project itself was mostly done through the foundation's funding, and so that's, we had only a small share towards the overall project cost. So Again, that's why I'm a little bit uncertain as to like where the dollars and cents kind of came
I
into.
think it was kind of the build and design, and now ongoing maintenance would be.
Which, yeah, we hate to throw more things on top of Public Works to do
Right,
things
right.
if that's
Yeah, I
the
thought
case.
that was part of the.
That would make
the
sense,
agreement,
but
too.
yeah, we'll take a look into that. So that was old business, any new business? Mike, the only question I had, I know we had 3 applications come in for the UCC board. Are we going to do that? Obviously, nobody's been able to receive them yet. We're going to put that on for an agenda item for a later meeting?
Yes, and that's an item that I had a brief conversation with the solicitor prior to this meeting. I think that we are getting close to being able to make appointments. I just wanted to have the solicitor review the current ordinance that creates the UCC Appeals Board. I think it's Chapter 96.7 or something in our code, because it may not be quite clear in that ordinance what the term lengths are for those appointed members. So once we clear that up with the solicitor, bless you, there may be we may be ready to make the appointments, or we may have to revise or amend the ordinance and put a new ordinance in place and then make the appointment. So we are getting close. I did receive those 3 applications. The board can be up to 5 members. Again, we even internally staff discussed potentially, again, amending the existing ordinance and then maybe even providing for alternate members as well. So just a little bit of legal clarification needs to be done, and then the appointments will probably be on, I would think the 2nd May agenda is what it's lining up to be right now. Again, provided gathering feedback from the solicitor and everything goes according to plan.
All right, executive session, we are having an executive session, but
Yes, there are
action coming out of it.
no action coming out of it, but there are personnel, CBA matter, and potential litigation.
Okay. All right, I guess one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you, Jamie and Matt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for tonight.